Hi guys, my name's Nick, I'm a guitarist from the UK and you're about to find out why I rarely speak in my videos. Right, let's answer some questions. Probably my earliest musical memory was that my great-grandfather had a electric organ in his front room, and as a kid I'd hear stuff off the television and pick out the keys and start playing like melodies back. I would have been probably very tiny, like toddler kind of age. My next musical memory is probably buying my first ever singles. I bought on tape on the same day Bryan Adams' Everything I Do It For You, and Meatloaf's I'd Do Anything For Love But I Won't Do That. There's a running theme of cheesy ballads here. My journey to the guitar actually started with the keyboard. As I mentioned just a sec ago, my great-grandfather had a electric organ, and my first kind of indications that I had any kind of a musical ability, if you can say I currently have a musical ability, is, as I said, picking out melodies and stuff on the electric keyboard. At first, I was probably more piano and like keyboard focused than anything else. But it was great ear training to start picking out melodies and mimicking them. So that was an early start to my musical ability, but that was the only kind of access to a musical instrument that I had for a few years. It actually took until my great-grandfather passed that he left us some money, and with that money I chose to get a keyboard, I think, with my brother, and a Squier Stratocaster. Early days of playing on the Squier Stratocaster was a bit like starting on the keyboard, to be honest with you. I would pick out singular notes, just root notes, and I'd pick out melodies. A bit like what I do now when I do my covers of a song. I'll pick out the main melody lines and cover those. Early musical influences for me when I started playing music was very varied. Probably about the time that I started to learn guitar, I was actually heavily into pop music. Britney Spears was big at the time. I really remember that I liked a song by a British pop band called BB Mac, and it was called Back Here Baby, and there was a guitar solo in that section that I was like, one day I'm gonna play that guitar solo, and I'll play the guitar solo for you now because it's like 2 notes.
Are you ever coming back in my life? 'Cause here I am, so alone, and there's nothing in this world I can do.
But yeah, so I was picking up the guitar mid to late 90s, I guess. That was when I probably first started. I may be remembering this completely wrong, but I think it was probably the late 90s that I started. And at the time I was listening to, as I say, like loads of pop, like bubblegum pop. And it really took until I was about the age of 13 that my dad's a big blues guy. And he is into like Hendrix, Clapton, Walter Trout, and I can vividly remember sitting in the car with him and he was playing some Jimi Hendrix, and I don't even remember what track it was, and I was just like, Dad, this is crap, it's just guitar music. And probably less than 2 years later I was learning all that guitar music. But yeah, so when I started showing an interest in the blues was probably my first, major influence in guitar. So I was listening to a lot of Jimi Hendrix to begin with. My dad is a massive Walter Trout fan. He's like the fan club. He was part of the fan club, and as a result, in my early days, I went to see Walter Trout in concert. Got to meet him, and that was a big influence for me at the time. Other than that, it was just mainly Clapton, to be honest with you. This may come as a massive surprise considering a lot of my videos are based on Eric Clapton. But it was just a matter of like me just soaking in everything that Clapton did. at the time. He was probably the most accessible guitarist that I had, because at that time you got to imagine it was kind of like, oh, well, there would have been Behind the Cradle, if that's the correct name for it. That was fairly new, and that kind of like not Pilgrim, is it Pilgrim? Reptile, that kind of era. So it was kind of like that poppy late 90s Clapton vibe. And watching him at the Queen's Jubilee at the time, that was just mind-blowing. And Brian May was on that concert as well. If you imagine in England, that was broadcast into every household, and he had like all these greats of guitar, and there was like Tony Iommi with Ozzy Osbourne playing as well, and that was right at the cusp. And I think also Eric Clapton released the Madison Square Garden Crossroads benefit concert, which my dad got on DVD, as well as the Supernatural the Supernatural live DVD by Carlos Santana as well. So all these kind of influences were hitting me, square in the eyes and ears at exactly the same time. So there was a massive kind of like blues rock influence that was coming in at the time. The funny thing is, I've never had a teacher, I guess. Well, I have, and I haven't. So I started learning to play just like the keyboard. I would pick out singular notes on the guitar. I'd have the guitar flat on my lap like I was Jeff Healey or something. And I would just literally, I'd pick out one note at a time. And it's just ear training. Luckily I've got a very good ear, so I'm able to play stuff back fairly swiftly. 1 or 2 listens, I'll be able to play it back to you. But it was just learning by ear, to be honest with you. I'd pick out singular notes at a time. At some point over, probably, I'm always learning. I never think I'm a great guitarist, even now I'm my own worst critic. But I was somehow learning chords. I think at some point I probably got myself a chord book and learned. Even now, I play chords and I do not know what they are or what they're called. I'm like the world's crappiest guitarist. But yeah, at some point I learned chords and how to I can remember doing my first power chord, and that was just mind-blowing. And it just kind of gradually built up over probably, until now, basically, we're talking I've been playing over 15 years or so now. Probably even longer than that, probably 16, 17 years. But yeah, soloing wise, once again, I was relying on my ear, and that, I was basically playing a section of Clapton or Hendrix or something, and then learning that, and then, mimicking it, playing along with the tracks, but all doing it by ear. I can't read notation, not fluently. I've only recently been able to read notation to some extent. And tab, it was the late 90s, so it wasn't a massive thing. You didn't have the internet as available like you do now, where you could go on and get a tab. So there was kind of no cheats. It was just a matter of either getting a teacher and learning, which I don't think my parents could afford at the time, or just taking the bull by the horns and teaching myself. So yeah, it was just mimicking. I'm a massive copycat for a lot of people. But from, learning a solo, somehow I learned that, this isn't a set rule. I told you I'm the world's crappiest guitarist, but the general kind of conception I had was that maybe the start chord had something to do with where to place your solo. And I think of solos and the fretboard as shapes. I know a lot of people think of it as numbers as well, but for me, I look at the fretboard and I see shapes and blocks. And that's how I kind of started figuring out how to solo as well, by learning other solos and then getting the kind of algorithm for that, as my brain understood it anyway. So yeah, that was kind of the early stages of how I learned to play guitar. And when I was 17, I went to college. I went to Norwich City College and studied music there. But that was a BTEC National Diploma in Music, which was mostly performance based. There was a certain amount of theory, which obviously I struggled with tremendously. it was a good basis really of like learning how to perform in a band. I then went on to university. I thought I would never get into Essex University studying music, but I went for an audition, and luckily they didn't say, "Where's your grades?" They just wanted me to perform, and they gave me an unconditional placement based on my performance, and basically said that I was perfect for the course. So I did a foundation degree in music to begin with, and then did an extra third year as like a fully fledged Bachelor Arts degree in music. But I did have a guitar teacher. I think his name was Danny Ansell. Great guy, but most of our lessons were him trying to eradicate my self-taught technique, which is mostly two fingers. Because I've learned songs by literally plotting out notes, unfortunately I voice chords backwards or just in weird ways sometimes, and when I solo I'm predominantly using two fingers, which I've told is not quite unique. I know Django Reinhardt did it, and I think Gary Moore and B.B. King just predominantly use two fingers. Is there a euphemism in there? But anyway, I apologize. I get a lot of comments on the fact that I predominantly use two fingers when playing guitar and like soloing. So sorry, yeah, that's bad, I know. If you remember earlier, I mentioned that right about the time that I was really getting into guitar and learning, there was just a number of guitarists that were, coming at me at once. So there was a lot of Gary Moore, David Gilmour, Eric Clapton obviously, Jeff Healey, Peter Green. Peter Green was a big influence actually. My first ever gig that I ever went to was John Mayall and the Blues Breakers and Peter Green. And being like, probably, 14, 15 at the time, I had no idea what I was witnessing. And it's only now that I realise that I saw Peter Green and John Mayall on the same stage together, which is a massive deal for someone born in 1988, which wasn't around for the 60s. Since my early days, since probably about 2004, I've been a massive John Mayer fan. I know he's very popular now, but I like to think as a Brit, I kind of knew about him before anyone else did, and before YouTube. I first saw him on the Crossroads, Eric Clapton Crossroads DVD from 2004. I'd just literally gone to Texas, Fort Worth, and missed the gig. So John Mayer, Joe Bonamassa has been an influence, and I was lucky enough to go to a workshop with Joe Bonamassa, and he was a great guy, nice to chat to, very informative. He was letting people use his guitars. There's not many massive guitarists that, would be like that. But my, influences are forever changing. Michael Landau I'd never heard of, 6 years ago, but now he's a massive influence on my playing. I like a lot of country guys like Brad Paisley and Brad Mason as well, obviously. But yeah, the guitarists that I listen to on a day-to-day basis are always changing. So there's always someone new that I'm being exposed to and, picking influences up from. Though I often feel I get a bit stuck in a rut as a guitar player, but that's another video. So since university, I've been in a few different outfits and bands. I've been a guitar for hire for some, singer-songwriters. I have done time in a gospel band. I'm not religious in the slightest, but why not? Let's give it a go. Rock bands, I was in a blues band called the Mojo Preachers, which unfortunately have recently broken up. We released an album called Confessions, which you can find on Spotify. I'll link that below. It's not my greatest work, but it's, it was a good time to learn how to be in a band, a recording band, and, do professional gigs. I've also been in kind of like a function band and corporate event bands, most notably Iconic Party Band. We did a lot of weddings, commercial events, and charity events, stuff like that as well. And it was great in teaching me how a musician should really be paid, and not doing a £250 gig here and there. That's £250 for the entire band. you know, the gig with Iconic was teaching me that, you know, I could earn 300 or more pounds myself from a event, and that's, you know, the true, you know, kind of like self-employed life as a musician. Don't undersell yourself. So that was a great learning curve. Since the pandemic, being a type 1 diabetic, I kind of gave up, and because I'm diabetic, I was told to be extra safe. So for a while now, I've not been in any bands, which is why I've been posting to YouTube a lot more often. But I'm currently looking for dep work in the functional, like, commercial circuit. So it's 2022 now. Don't know when you're watching this, but hopefully, you know, COVID's not a thing anymore. That's what Boris Johnson thinks. So hopefully you'll be seeing me at your local wedding or corporate event very soon. I have been lucky enough to go to loads of amazing gigs in my time. As I mentioned earlier, I saw Peter Green in the Splinter Group, who was supporting John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. At the time, John Mayall was touring with Buddy Whittington, who's a great Texan blues guitarist. I have seen Joe Bonamassa, Eric Clapton numerous times, John Mayer, probably every English gig, every English tour he's ever done. I've been to at least one night of that tour. I have seen Derek Trucks a couple of times as well. Once with just his own band, the Derek Trucks band, and then with the Tedeschi Trucks band as well. I've seen Prince live. I've seen Guthrie Govan. I actually used to Govan. I actually used to go to the Basement in Chelmsford, in Essex, in the UK. Well, I don't know if he still does, but he used to have a band called The Fellowship that used to play there quite often. So when I was living in Colchester, which is also in Essex, I used to go down quite often. And it was a very, very, very small, like, club. You could probably fit like 50 to 80 people in at most. But those gigs used to be great because you used to get some great guitarists that would just turn up, and, like, I remember Dave Kilminster one night was just like sitting there having a beer, watching Guthrie. I can remember that it was before the smoking ban in the UK came in. You can't smoke indoors. It's probably the same most places these days. And I watched Guthrie do this, like, face melting tapping solo whilst rolling a cigarette. And at that point, I lost all hope. I thought, I'll never be a great guitarist, and that's come true. So my YouTube channel, I started the YouTube channel quite a while ago, but then it was on hiatus for many years. I think I uploaded like a cover of, it was a song it's called like Riggs or Meet Martin Riggs or something like that, but it was a Lethal Weapon cover, which I think to this day has quite a lot of views to my standards. I'm no big fry on YouTube. Don't let yourself think that I think I'm great. I'm really not. But especially since COVID-19 happened, I realized that I had no musical outlet anymore. And actually, where I was gigging, you know, 2-3 times a week, suddenly that all went, and I was just like, oh crap, you know, what can I do? So I thought, well, why not pick up YouTube again? I really enjoy recording, and, you know, I just like the techie side of it as well, like, you know, recording on this camera, or, you know, editing it in my video editing software suite. And it's frustrating, it's massively frustrating, but I still love it. Like, you know, I'll practice a piece and it's fine, and, you know, 99.9% all my videos are live, which means I'll do it in one take, and then from this one camera angle, I'll take, you know, I'll track it and put different, like, little variations of the same camera angle in. And, you know, as such, I'll learn a piece perfectly, and then when I record it, it goes really bad. And it's not even like what happened to me playing it before. But anyway, so, and, you know, just, I've had about 500,000 or over 500,000 views on my YouTube channel, which I know is very small fry, considering that some videos on there get, you know, millions and millions and millions for just one video, and I get 500,000 for one. But I think that's still quite a feat, considering most of that's happened in the last, you know, year and a half, 2 years. And, you know, it's mainly a musical outlet for me, and I really enjoy doing it. I only really play the songs that I want to play, which is probably why I don't get as many hits and views as some guitarists. And, you know, it's not always, it's more obscure stuff sometimes, or very cheesy. I like to think of myself as the Kenny G of guitar. But, you know, I'll keep plugging away. I really enjoy having a YouTube channel. I get a lot out of it. You know, I get a lot of feedback and comments. I am my own worst critic, and I always feel as though I've done a crap job at everything I've ever done. And that's live, playing live. You know, I get people come up to me and say, you know, when I was in the Mojo Preachers, I used to get set, you know, it's the same guys every gig. You know, they'd follow me around and be like, Nick, you played really well tonight. And I can't take praise. I'm awful for that. But I would kind of through gritted teeth say thank you. And it's the same with my YouTube channel. I don't think that anything I do is any good. But, you know, that's not really reflected in the kind of comments that I get and some of the, you know, view count that I get as well. I don't get the whole YouTube algorithm thing, but as far as I'm concerned, I just put content out there and then it's out there. And if people want to search for that and find it and love it or hate it, let me know, you know, just, you know, I'm always up for ideas as well. So if anyone has any comments, you know, on what I should do next, or, you know, music I should listen to, you know, people I should check out. If you want me to look at your own stuff, just let me know, you know. At the end of the day, I just want it to be a platform where I can learn and grow and, you know, just get my name out there. Whether that's to one person where it makes a difference, or, you know, a million, who knows? You know, I'm still considering this channel as very early days. I'm only starting to take it seriously over the last, you know, couple of years or so. But, you know, I hope you guys enjoy what I do. I hope this video has not been a complete car crash, and that, you know, you're getting something out of it. It's been interesting. But yeah, you know, I'd just like to say again, you know, all the support I get online is great, and I thank you for it. I used to get negative comments in the early days of YouTube, and that's completely gone. I don't know whether or not YouTube somehow filters that out. I don't get notified of it. But a lot of it would be around, you know, the two-finger, you know, soloing technique, and do I have a gimp hand and stuff like that. And I used to find it hilarious, and I miss that. But, you know, maybe I'm opening myself up to a whole tirade of abuse now. But, you know, as I say, I hope you guys enjoy what I do. I value every view count that I get, every like I get, and every subscriber I get. So thank you so much. But yeah, you know, hopefully we'll be in contact soon, and maybe after I review this, I'll do another talking video. I know a lot of people want a gear video, know how I do these, you know, my YouTube videos and what I'm recording through and all that. So maybe I'll do that next. But anyway, take care, guys. All the best. Bye.